watching teleSUR English. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with this from the south. In the Middle East, despite the agreements for a ceasefire between Hamas and Israel, the number of Palestinian deaths has risen to more than 67,000 due to the Zionist aggression in the Gaza Strip. Health authorities reported that at least 67,139 Palestinians have been killed since the beginning of the Israeli aggression in October 2023. They warned that several victims remain trapped under rubble, while ambulances and civilian personnel are having difficulty reaching them. They also warned that the death toll could increase in the next few hours. In Lebanon, Hezbollah Deputy Secretary General Sheikh Naim Qassem warned that the U.S. plan for Gaza presented by President Donald Trump is a dangerous project aligned with Israel's interests. During a speech commemorating the first anniversary of the martyrdom of leaders, Qassem pointed out that the proposal coincides with the 5 strategic principles defined by Israel to end the attacks on Palestine, describing it as an Israeli plan with a U.S. appearance. Qassem asserted that the timing of the proposal's presentation seeks to exonerate Israel in the eyes of international public opinion for its crimes in Gaza, shifting their responsibility to other actors. The Egyptian government will host a new round of talks on the exchange of prisoners between Israel and the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas. The authorities reported on the preparations for the dialogue following the progress made in the last few hours between Israel and Hamas. They also stated that they are working actively with all parties to create an environment that will allow for the implementation of an exchange agreement. Cairo specified that the objective of the first phase is to negotiate the exchange of prisoners and the withdrawal of the Israeli army from the Gaza Strip. And in Israel, settlers protested in the streets of the capital Tel Aviv this Saturday, calling for the release of Israeli hostages amidst the alleged peace plan presented by U.S. President Donald Trump. Participants demanded an end to the war in Gaza, a term Israeli public opinion uses to ignore the genocide of Palestinians by Zionist forces, which has left more than 67,000 people dead. Protesters expressed their support for the U.S. President Donald Trump, claiming his administration had secured the release of Israeli hostages who they said had been victims of the actions of their own military. Let us remember that the Palestinian movement Hamas is willing to release the detainees and negotiate with Israel on the basis of Palestinian territorial sovereignty, an aspect that Trump's peace plan ignores. In Tunisia, thousands took part in a large public demonstration to demand the release of activists from the global Sumud flotilla arrested by Israeli soldiers. The massive demonstration took place in the streets of the capital. Participants waved Palestinian flags and chanted slogans in support of the Palestinian resistance. At the same time, they urged the Tunisian government to put pressure on Israel to release all humanitarian activists detained after the assault on the humanitarian flotilla. Tunisia joins the Global Day of Action to condemn the Israeli government's practices against international initiatives, the genocide and famine imposed on the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, in Portugal, another demonstration took place calling for the immediate release of activists detained by the Zionist regime after intercepting ships carrying humanitarian aid. Among the participants in the mission to Gaza are 4 Portuguese citizens, including Mariana Mortágua, leader and member of parliament of the Left Bloc Party. We move to Ireland. Thousands also gather in the centre of Dublin to denounce the assault on the global Sumud flotilla and demand an end to hostilities. Protesters' discontent was directed especially at the international community, with strong criticism of the United States and the European Union for their inaction in the face of the crisis. And social organizations, students and academics from Bolivia gathered in the city of La Paz to condemn the acts committed by Israeli forces against the global Sumud flotilla. Protesters condemned the events that took place between October 2nd and the 3rd, when the Zionist regime intercepted and apprehended all members of the flotilla in international waters. This brutal action was directed against more than 400 unarmed activists from 44 countries who were transporting humanitarian aid to Gaza. Currently, the activists are in prison after being arrested by the Israeli regime, while several countries denounce such violations. In Russia, the growing threat of drone attacks by Ukraine is causing interruptions to basic services in the city of Sochi. According to reports, the outages are reported to occur between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. local time, with even greater impact depending on weather conditions, which makes travel and work difficult. The events are taking place amidst an increase in Ukrainian attacks against Russian territory, targeting different facilities and power plants. These issues are exacerbated by security problems in the city, despite fears of drones and helicopters. Most Russian tourists continue to flock the city, enjoying the surrounding beaches and mountains. We have a first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. We will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers shot a woman during civil protests in front of the Illinois ICE facilities. The protest in front of the ICE facility was violently dispersed by police officers, evidence of the criminalization of the fight for migrant rights. The mobilization occurred in the context of controversial operations criticized for illegal detentions, but also fuels the conflict between local inclusion policies and the federal agenda that responds to the hate-fueled rhetoric driven by the Trump administration. And a federal judge in Oregon issued a temporary restraining order preventing the Trump administration from deploying the National Guard to Portland after the president announced he would send in the military to protect what he calls a war-torn city. Our correspondent Jorge Estoso with details.
Thank you. A federal judge has blocked the deployment of the National Guard in Portland, Oregon, arguing with her words that is erasing the line between the civil power and the military power, risking martial law in a nation of constitutional rights. Most definitely, it has created a large polemic, the definitely use of extreme force in the deployment of the National Guard there. President Trump says that is Portland, a city devastated for a civil war, devastated by a war. The local authorities, it says that it's not true, that devastated by a war. The local authorities, it says that it's not true, that there is no devastation, that there is no lack of order, that the order with the local authorities could be absolutely taken care of. But there is, the protests are non-stop because of the raids with the violence that is taking place, and mostly people are protesting in front of the facilities of the ICE, the Immigration and Customs Services, or La Migra, as they say in Spanish, because of what they believe that is unfair treatment of illegal immigrants, but also unfair treatment of American citizens, because in those raids everybody is being treated in the same way. We get back to you now.
In Georgia, at least 27 people were injured after opposition protesters stormed the president's residence on Saturday. Among the injured were 6 protesters and 21 police officers. During this incident, the police used water cannons and fired tear gas canisters to clear the area, The Ministry of the Interior warned that the demonstration exceeded the rules imposed by the law on peaceful demonstrations. These protests are taking place amidst the elections for mayors and members of municipal assemblies, mainly led by pro-Western movements. In this regard, Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobachidze blamed the European Union for contributing to the unrest in the country and for attempting to overthrow the government. And far-right multimillionaire and former Prime Minister Andrej Babis, an outspoken supporter of Trump, won the Czech Republic's legislative elections held on Friday and Saturday, October 3rd and the 4th. The far-right president will have to seek external support from other parties as he does not have a sufficient majority to govern. The 71-year-old tycoon was Prime Minister from 2017 to 2021 and Minister of Finance for 4 years prior to that term. If his victory results in a new government, it opens up the prospect of a strengthening of the populist axis in Europe. 8 million voters were called to the polls to elect infrastructure advancements, including 1.7 million passengers transported on the Maya train and 15 million arrivals at Felipe Angeles Airport. Reforms such as judicial elections by citizens and the integration of the National Guard to the Defense Ministry aim to strengthen democracy. Social programs reached 82% of households, cutting poverty from 42% in 2018 to 29%. He praised Mexico's democracy, rejecting repression, censorship, and emphasized a collective government project based on social justice, dignity, and humanism. In Venezuela, the Bolivarian National Armed Forces conducted special exercises as part of their preparations in response to threats from the United States. President Nicolás Maduro called for this activity, detailing that at least 15 its military readiness after U.S. forces perpetrated several aggressions near the Venezuelan coast in an attempt to threaten the South American country's sovereignty. This is where I've come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.